everyone, I'm Carly.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Away She Goes, a podcast from girls who travel.
Each episode will help you feed your wanderlust with travel tips, stories, inspiration, and more. Away she goes.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Away She Goes. It is officially October, which means that it is officially my favorite time of year. I don't screw the holidays, screw the summer. It's October, it's fall, it's spooky season. Here we are. So in honor of spooky season, we have a very special guest today, Gio Rutherford, who is here to talk about Spooky Lake Month. So Gio, before we get into it, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and telling our listeners a little bit about you.
Yeah. Yes. Hello. My name is Gio Rutherford. I started a TikTok account in 2020, like many of us potentially did, and accidentally took over lake facts on the internet. I guess there was like an opening, nobody had taken up that role. So I just decided that it was my job, even though I don't have a limnology degree or a hydrology degree. I have an art degree. But I wrote my master's thesis about the Great Lakes. And so I decided to make videos about the Great Lakes, and everything I did accidentally went viral. Like anything I tried. This was 2020 though. Like it was kind of an experimental period of TikTok. And I don't think there was a lot of people doing what I was attempting at the time. I think it's much more common now as like doing educational stuff, but it was new. It was like a new concept at that time. And so yeah, then I kind of started to make videos on the internet, and now 5 years later,
here we are.
I guess I'm still doing it. Yeah. So I made a career out of it.
We've actually heard that from other content creators. Like the videos that I made and I thought were going to go viral, everybody was going to love, were a flop. And the ones that I thought were a flop were the ones that went right. It's like never what you expect.
Yeah. No, definitely. I was really lucky in those early years. I just kind of, everything that I tried just kind of worked. The things that I thought would go viral did go viral, and the things that I didn't think would go viral didn't go viral. I had that pretty good finger on like a pulse of what people wanted at that time. I get more anxious about it now, like as it kind of built up. I have kind of different standards that can be kind of intimidating to me and my ability to create. I'm like, man, if I don't get 100,000 views on this, then I should delete it, which is crazy. But that's just where my brain works now. So for a Spooky Lake Month video, if I get less than 400,000 or 500,000, I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong with this video? What's wrong with people? Like, what's wrong? I'm quitting with less than 400,000 views. But that's obviously the psycho talk. So
cool though. And I think I'm not sure if it was 2020, but I've been following you for a long time now, and I'm a little bit starstruck. And I'd love to know, how did you get from making a little bit of content about the Great Lakes to doing Spooky Lake Month?
Yeah. The first videos I posted were about the Great Lakes. Like if you go back to those horrendous times, like those videos are so bad, like quality wise. I think some of the facts are wrong. Like they were just a mess. I was not as polished as I am now. And on October 2nd, I had stumbled across just so many weird lakes at that point. Like when I started to do, after the Great Lakes stuff, I had done a video about Lake Baikal that went like super viral. And I started to just make videos about lakes from around the world, Lake Hillier, which is pink, Lake Natron, which is red, Great Salt Lake, Salton Sea. I had started to just kind of make videos about things I was interested in lake-wise, and kind of to myself coming to this appreciation of how weird lakes are around the world and how many there are and like what's going. I just started to kind of grasp the lake population and like who are the celebrities of this population and who's like what's normal and what's not. And because of that, I had kind of gathered all this information, and I was like, man, there's a lot of weird lakes that are just strange and kind of spooky. And so October 2nd, I posted my first like throwaway Spooky Lake Month video, and it went viral for what, like in my determination, it was semi-viral. It was like 1.2 million views or something like that. It's a messy video. It's like not a nice video. I like screwed up certain things in it. I made jokes that were, it's not a great video, but sometimes that's the reason you go viral, unfortunately, especially in those early days. I feel like a lot of times I went viral because people had space to nitpick what I was doing. And that actually provides kind of a path to views. You know, like in my Lake Baikal video, I said that the Nerpa seal was the only freshwater seal in the world. And I don't want to go back to living that Geo's life, because I was so upset, because I was like, well, it is the only exclusively freshwater seal, but I think it's excluding like these important seals that have been cut off from their saltwater, relatives. Anyway, wow, I don't need to get into the Sealgate situation, because it was like
Sealgate 2020.
it was really traumatic for me at the time. But I think that sometimes that's why videos go viral. People are like, people can nitpick you. So then in October, I just did Spooky Lake Month, and it was a total mess. In 2020, they were really bad videos, but I just kind of kept going and just kept having fun with it. And then in 2021, it was like it was better curated. The videos were a little bit better, like as far as my execution of them, they were better, like constructed or whatever, put together on my part. And then yeah, now we are this will be the sixth, even though it's 5 years, it's confusing. Even though it's 5 years, this is the 6th season coming up of Spooky Lake Month. So I've done 6 years where I do 31 videos in 31 days. We went from doing 1-minute videos that I made in an hour to 3-minute videos that take me 8 hours to make.
And you do them those days, the day of.
Yeah. And I make them the day of. And that's I do have a plan somewhat. Like I have a loose plan going into the month where I have a list, and I try to map it out so that I break up my radioactive stuff and break up my toxic things. And like, I can only do so many like really gross climate, like humans being disgusting videos. So I try to break those up and put them, like cave diving, I try to break them up. So I have like kind of a plan going into the month. But the reason I think I like to do the videos a day of is they feel really authentic in some way. Cause I even respond to comments where I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that. And sometimes it can be really nice to be able to like engage with what's going on in the comment section. And then that kind of makes the videos feel really authentic, and kind of fresh, hot and spicy. And so, yeah, I think it's like 100, and I'm not good at math. I know I have the number somewhere. It's like 176 videos that I've done in this kind of genre at this point, the Spooky Lake genre. Now, if you know, but Spooky Lake Month is kind of a misnomer for a lot of reasons. First of all, I'm not interested in ghosts and ghouls. I'm not interested in conspiracy theories or true crime. My videos have never been about that. And then also, it's not really Lake Month anymore. It's really like anything wet kind of qualifies for Spooky Lake Month. If it's hydrology, then it counts. And I've enjoyed the way how far I can stretch that. Like this last year, I did a fountain that like killed people, and I was like, I enjoyed the fact that I could stretch the concept of Spooky Lake Month to the point where we were talking about a killer fountain, which is still a little morbid, but all of them are morbid because they're real true stories and real science and real history. And so it can be a little touchy to add a spooky rating onto like real life death and like real life situations. So that's kind of where I think I draw the line a little bit, like, or I've created a bit of a problem with myself, is that some topics I won't do because I don't want to give them a spooky rating. So even though they are perfect for Spooky Lake Month, I won't talk about them.
Got it. Okay. So one thing I was wondering, because you mentioned earlier that you have an art degree, is hydrology and lakes, is that something you always were interested in from a young age, or did you just kind of decide I'm going to write my thesis on the Great Lakes and it went from there? Like, when did that interest really start in water and hydrology?
Yeah. Even when I was in high school, I did artwork about climate change. Like I've always done artwork about environmental issues, current events, things that are going on in the world, to nature and whatnot. And so when I quit my job, I was teaching high school. I taught high school ceramics for 5 years in Ann Arbor. Loved that job. Thought I was going to be a teacher forever. Really thought that was the best thing ever. But I was also like a single dog mom, and like just decided to go get my master's degree just for fun. Like, why not? I had flipped my house. I had $60,000 in my pocket, and I thought, let's go for a full ride to get an MFA. So I got a full ride to the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. So I was like paid $800 a month to teach classes there, and kind of lived very frugally for the 3 years. And because I'm somebody who's very conscious of the fact that if you're going to get an art degree, you have to be careful. Like, you have to have a plan. You have to know what you're going to do. You don't want to end up in a lot of debt. And so I was very I lived in like a shithole. Am I allowed to say shit? I
Yes.
lived in a shithole.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
Um,
swear all the time. It's fine.
okay. I don't swear
I
that
don't
much, but
even.
for this it is applicable. It was like a really crappy little
That's what
apartment.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but I lived near Lake Michigan for the first time in my life, and so I would spend days going down there, and I started to formulate my thesis around the Great Lakes when I started to spend like day after day going to the beach and just collecting things, and that collection grew, and it was 90 days of collecting things on the beach, and that kind of ended up leading to my master's thesis, which was about pollution and invasive species, erosion, just things that were going on with the Great Lakes. And in 2020, I was still in the middle of my thesis. And so I made a TikTok about this project I was doing, and it went really viral. It was the first ever thing I ever posted on the internet, and it went viral.
Went
So,
viral.
so that's also why I have trouble giving advice to people, because I'm like, I don't know. Because the first thing I ever did, it was so controversial with the TikTok audience that it resulted in a viral video that kind of catapulted my now career. And then because of that, my mom's a earth science teacher, PhD in geology. That's why my name is Geo, kind of a bad sense of humor. And so I started to do videos about the Great Lakes, because I was like, oh my gosh, people, do you know about the Great Lakes? Like they're crazy. Like the story of the Great Lakes is wild.
They are. I'm from upstate New York, so I've seen. I think I've been to all of them except Superior, but like there's something.
Yeah, there's something to be said. I went to a school in Australia in 8th grade. I spent like I essentially got held back for a year. And I don't think I ever learned about the Great Lakes. So when I was doing the research for my thesis, I was like constantly like, oh my God, did you know this? This is the craziest thing. I think that like especially people living in the Midwest probably learn about the Great Lakes, like how they are formed and kind of what's going on with them hydrologically. The fact that they're unique, they're not completely unique, but they are pretty unique when it comes to the world, like the global stage of lakes, and kind of understanding and appreciating the context for that. And I just didn't get that. I think I learned it as an adult, which made it so much more shocking to me, because I missed that 8th grade year where I like missed basic geography classes that you get in American 8th grade. And so then, yeah, I was just shocked. I think in general, this whole career, the thing I'm doing with lakes is mostly because I'm like, oh my, did you know this? This is crazy. This is wild. This is crazy. Like, so I've just constantly, like, everything I've done is just because I've been shocked and surprised, and because I'm not a scientist, so I have to kind of go back to the basics to understand stuff, which then means that when I'm regurgitating it on the internet, I'm regurgitating it with like fully wanting to understand something from scratch. And I think that sometimes makes it easier for other people who don't know anything about lakes and don't know anything about hydrology to kind of connect with that, because I'm not, starting higher up. I'm starting from like, what is anoxic? Because I didn't even know what that word meant before 2020. I didn't really appreciate what it meant before 2020. So things like that I think help.
Yeah, that is so cool, and it really makes your videos a lot relatable. And I actually I went to German high school, and I did learn a little bit about the Great Lakes. Not as much detail as I learned from you, just a little bit of like their special and lake effect snow, basically. And
oh yes, lake effect snow is the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever.
Especially over there in New York. Yeah.
I grew up in Syracuse. Oh my God.
Oh
It's
yeah.
awful.
Syracuse
Like
is
now
like,
I'm more east. I'm in like the capital region. So we get a little bit, but not like it dumps on Syracuse.
I was funny because when I started posting on Instagram, I didn't post those old Great Lakes videos. So Instagram doesn't know. My relationship with Instagram is so different than TikTok, because TikTok, I was kind of like, I grew as a creator with them, right? With that audience. And not on TikTok or Instagram. So Instagram's like more of a hot mess, but I never posted my Great Lakes videos. So sometimes people are like, oh, well, have you done the Great Lakes topics? And I'm like, yeah, I made 100 videos in 2020 and then never reposted them here. But I was surprised about how many people around the world don't know anything about the Great Lakes. It was definitely, there's a word for this, where I like just was a little clueless about. I was like, oh, well, of course, everybody knows about the Great Lakes, but I didn't know about Lake Baikal. And the rest of the world is like, everybody knows about Lake Baikal. And so there's definitely like a bubble going on where like, you know about the lakes that are close to you, and then you don't really necessarily appreciate like Lake Tanganyika or what's going on with the African Great Lakes, which are millions of years old in comparison to our little puny baby Great Lakes, so yeah, I definitely had to kind of like take the shield off to be able to appreciate better how crazy lakes are around the world.
Yeah, I didn't even know Africa had Great Lakes.
Yeah, they have these incredible Great Lakes along the African tectonic, with the African Rift Valley. So because that is like pulling apart there, they have these really deep lakes. So Lake Tanganyika is like one of the deepest lakes in the world, and it's super long and skinny, kind of like Lake Baikal, because they're all rift lakes. Like most lakes in the world that are not in the northern hemisphere, or they're not where the glaciers were, because a lot of our lakes in the world were created by glaciers. Most of the rest of the lakes in the world are because of rift valleys or mountains, or like areas where the earth is pulling apart or pushing up, instead of these kettle lakes that you get in Michigan and New York, or these lakes that are a result of ice that was left behind. So it's kind of interesting that most of the world lakes are more rare. Like the southern hemisphere lakes are much more rare.
Interesting. Yeah, in New York, I mean, we have Finger Lakes. I have like Lake George. Like all these lakes are long. They were all formed by glaciers.
Yep. Yeah. So think about like South America. They don't have their lakes are totally different than ours here.
Yep.
They still have them, but they're a result of sinkholes, or they're like Lake Tanganyika is another, or not Lake Tanganyika, Lake Titicaca, one of my favorite lakes because of its
I love the name.
Is also a rift. It's like a result of tectonic shifting. And so, the Dead Sea, a result of the tectonic shifting. So it's kind of that part of it. I didn't know that. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. Talking about all of the different stories, all the different lakes that you've already visited in your videos, do you have maybe one or two favorite lake stories that you'd like to share?
I mean, lake stories or just lakes?
Either one.
Either one. I mean, I think that if you followed me for any significant amount of time, I'm obsessed with Lake Baikal, because it's like earned. It's like an earned obsession. The Lake Baikal it deserves all of the attention and love. Because okay, so backing up, if you listening have not heard of Lake Baikal, then I'm jealous, because you get an opportunity to go on a journey here,
a rabbit hole that you're about to go
learn
down.
about the wildest lake on our planet.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's giant. It has all of the water of the Great Lakes, the North American Great Lakes combined. It has 21% of the world's available freshwater, just in a single lake that has a smaller surface area than any of the American Great Lakes. Like, it is a much, much smaller surface area wise lake. It has a surface area the size of Belgium, though. So when I say it's like a small surface area, that doesn't actually mean that it's small. It just means that it's small compared to like Superior, which has a much larger surface area. So it's still like, well, don't quote me on this, but it's like 30, 40 miles across still. Like, it's still like a wide lake, even though it's just really long and skinny. But the thing about it is that it's 5,387 feet deep, which is over a mile deep. At its deepest point, which is kind of hard to conceptualize. It's hard to appreciate that. But just for comparison, the deepest lake in the United States is Crater Lake, and it's 1,900 and something feet deep. And so I'm not, yet again, pardon my math, at any given time, but it's like a third of the depth, right? Or something. It's small, much smaller. And so Lake Baikal has this incredible depth. It has a really high retention. Like, the water sticks around in the lake for a long time, but it's kind of shocking because most lakes die because the sediment brought in from the surrounding rivers. So 300 rivers bring sediment into Lake Baikal, and all this sediment kind of peters into Lake Baikal, but where does it go? Why is the lake not filled in the way that the Dead Sea is filling in, the way that there's lakes around the world are dying because they're being filled in with sediment, which is natural. That's like a natural, lakes have the same progression that humans do. They are born, they live, and they die. So it's normal. But Lake Baikal, all of that sediment is disappearing into this kind of unseen crack in the earth, where, because it's a rift valley, that means the earth is pulling apart at that point. And it's been pulling apart for 25 million years or more. It's kind of unknown. It's estimated to be around 25 million years old. All that sediment just disappears into that crack in the earth. So the actual bed, the floor beneath all of that sediment, is thought to be deeper than the Mariana Trench. So if you were to kind of dive below the sediment, below Lake Baikal, it's this huge crack in the earth. because of that, it has hydrothermal vents, which is also totally rare for like, that is not something you see in most lakes. So it has like literally minerals kind of percolating up from the crust into the water, which is helping push kind of this, the water circulates in the lake, which a lot of lakes, like for example, the Dead Sea, even though it's humongous, it doesn't circulate. It has stratified water. So there's water that's like at the bottom, and it doesn't help that it's like partly freshwater, partly saltwater. And so the different densities are kind of contributing to that, but it doesn't mix. And so the fact that Lake Baikal mixes is pretty incredible at the scale that it is and at the depth that it is. And so all that water is mixing, and the minerals are kind of helping support this really intricate ecosystem that has been built there, from the tiniest little amphipods to these seals, which ended up here in an unknown way. Scientists don't know how these seals ended up in the middle of landlocked Siberia,
Russia.
but these
It
little
is still the
seals
wildest thing to me.
showed up like 2 to 3 million years ago. Yeah. And we don't know how they got there, because like the Caspian seals kind of make sense, right? The like Sima seals, they make in Finland, like we understand how they got there. It was like within reasonably a reasonable history that we can kind of trace their lineage. We can't trace the lineage of the Baikal seal. We don't know if it's connected necessarily. It's probably connected to the Arctic seal, but we don't really know. And so that's what kind of makes it different than the Alaska freshwater seals, or the Finland freshwater seals, or the Canadian freshwater seals, or whatever. There's like other little freshwater seals that have been cut off from their ancestors because of the ice ages, right? So that's an incredible ecosystem. They have the Baikal has this sponge that like sucks up and cleans the water really well, and like keeps out, because of the cold atmosphere, you don't get as much algae. You have in recent years, but like you don't get as much of these toxic algae blooms that kind of cut off oxygen. So it's like for now, it's like in a really good preservation state. It's a little dangerous because it's in Russia, so they don't necessarily have as many environmental protections. And they have had factories on the edge of the water, like dumping pollutants in. And China is kind of fighting for potential access to the lake as well. So there's a precipice that we're kind of like teetering at a little bit for the future of Baikal. You hope that Russia would potentially treat it like we treat our national parks, or we did treat our national parks.
Right, protect it.
Yeah, to try to protect it. So anyway, sorry, I don't know, it was kind of a long ramble, but I do feel like Baikal deserves that type of kind of appreciation, because it's just different.
So you'd say that's your favorite one?
I think there's a difference. I feel like Lake Baikal is my favorite celebrity lake. Like I have a parasocial relationship with Lake Baikal, but I've never met her, But I think that if you were to talk about like the one that I have, like I feel like closely tied to, but I've actually met her and I love her, is Lake Superior. Like I love Lake Superior. And Lake Superior has, I feel like, a more interesting human history that has led to a lot of really interesting, spooky topics that Lake Baikal hasn't had as much of, because it's kind of isolated. So Lake Superior is definitely my spooky girlfriend, and Lake Baikal is like the celebrity girl that I have a crush on, but I don't know her at all. So
I want to
hear a spooky Superior story.
Oh, there's so many. That's what the best thing about Lake Superior is, that thousands of people have died in the Great Lakes. There's been 300 shipwrecks in Lake Superior that we know of. Like not even like those are the ones that we like have kind of kept track of in history. Tons of them we've never even found, though. They've just been at the bottom of Lake Superior, and we have no idea where they are. I mean, the Great Lakes as a whole have had thousands of shipwrecks, and some 10,000 people have died. And so Lake Superior is special because, unlike the other Great Lakes, which have also murdered in like many a human being, but I think there's something special about Lake Superior because of because of the weather patterns in the fall. The water is warm and the air gets cold in September, so you get these insane storms on the lake that you don't really get as much of on Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Huron. Like you do, they're like the storm of 1913, like brutalized Lake Huron. But Lake Superior, I think, has kind of garnered a reputation for the witches, which is these winter gales that have occurred. And as a result, you get these shipwrecks, some of them infamous, like Edmund Fitzgerald has this wonderful, rich history of people kind of knowing about it. Well, it's not wonderful, but you know what I mean? Like the history and our kind of our fascination with it as a culture. And, Gordon Lightfoot definitely contributed to that. But then you have ones like the Kamloops shipwreck, which I don't know if you guys heard of that one. I always talk about that one because, you can, unlike the Edmund Fitzgerald, which you cannot dive to, you cannot visit the Edmund Fitzgerald, even though it's pretty shallow. It's I think some, less than, it's diveable. It's right in the Whitefish Bay. The Kamloops shipwreck is off the coast of Isle Royale, and people can dive to visit it because the families of the Kamloops never protested the use of it being a dive site, even though in the Great Lakes, if you die on a ship in the Great Lakes, then that is your graveyard. That is your designated resting place. Nobody's coming to get you. Nobody's coming to take your body away, because what happens to a human body in Lake Superior, unlike other lakes, like lakes that are warmer, even other Great Lakes don't preserve the dead as well as Lake Superior. But in Lake Superior, because the water is so cold, it's fresh water, a body falls to the bottom and doesn't decompose. And because it doesn't decompose, it doesn't bloat with bacteria and whatnot, and then come to the surface, which is what normally happens. And this is also true for Lake Tahoe, for Lake Crescent or Crescent Lake in Washington, these different lakes from around the world that are also cold and deep. And so human body is preserved, and there's these chemical reaction that occurs through the skin and the water. It's called adipocere. That's what the substance that's created is called adipocere. The chemical reaction is called saponification, where the human body kind of becomes like a giant block of soap, just kind of like a literal block of soap. Don't Google it. Trust me. I'm protecting you. Do not Google adipocere. Do not Google saponification of the human skin, because it's gross. And a lot of times we're seeing it happen in anoxic situations, in like a graveyard that floods, and then the body is kind of preserved in this anoxic environment. And the same thing happens where saponification happens. And that kind of crust of waxy soap protects it from ever really decomposing. And so these bodies can last for hundreds of years at the bottom of these cold lakes. And Lake Superior has a resident in the Kamloops shipwreck. His name is Old Whitey, and he floats around in the boiler room there. And so divers visit Old Whitey. Yeah, they visit Old Whitey, and they're diving. Their fins are kind of moving the water in the boiling room. So Old Whitey is floating around the boiling room, chasing them. And he's really gross. There's pictures of him. You're allowed to Google that, because it's not it's mostly just little white legs poking out from behind a bar.
I'm doing it right now so people can hear my reaction.
Old Whitey, Lake Superior, Kamloops shipwreck, and he's kind of a gnarly little dude. And it's kind of, we don't know who he is. We don't know his name. He was just one of the many crew members who died in this shipwreck.
There he is. I'm on Reddit. See, it's
classic. Yeah.
Oh,
there he is.
We'll see.
That nickname is also just killing me.
Yeah, I actually illustrated him in my book, not necessarily realistically, because actual adipocere is so gross, and I had to kind of keep it a little PG for the kids. But I got to paint the boiler room, which was really fun. And so if we're looking at Old Whitey, then this is my version of Old Whitey in the boiler room.
There he is.
There's no pictures of his face or anything on the internet, which I think is actually a good job, internet, for not exploiting poor Mr. Old Whitey. But
your illustration actually just came up on my Google search. You can't really see it. It's not there. It is. It's yours, I promise.
Oh, okay. It's my picture of it. That's funny.
It is. Yeah, no, I did Google images, and then as I'm scrolling, I saw that.
There it is. I pop up.
Oh, that's creepy.
I'm not sure how many people are interested in painting a corpse that goes in the boiler room of a shipwreck.
There's little legs just chilling in there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of examples of that. And I think Old Whitey is kind of the most famous resident, because he's kind of contained, and you can keep track of him kind of. But it's true. It's probably true that there's other cases exactly like that, not only in Lake Superior, but in other cold freshwater lakes. That's what makes Lake Superior like that's why I always try to end Spooky Lake Month with Lake Superior. It's getting a little harder to find, like, because I've done it now this is my 6th time. So I've kind of done like really pretty famous ones, but sometimes I get to deep dive into topics I didn't know anything about. Last year I did the SS Matafa, which like the entire crew froze in the ship as it was like trapped at the docks of the Duluth Harbor, like right next to the city, and they still froze to death because they got trapped there during a storm. So that kind of thing, and it's just like there's a lot of horrible stories like that about Lake Superior.
Yeah, I saw that video and I was like shocked.
Like,
That was so
imagine being
close.
that close.
Yeah.
And you're still obviously you've been to the Great Lakes. Have you ever had a chance to visit? It sounds like, being that it's in Russia aside, like it sounds like you'd love to go to Lake Baikal, but like have you ever been able to visit some of the other lakes that you've really been interested in?
My book came out last year, and in my book I did a couple topics that were in California and like in Oregon and Washington, that kind of stretch. And so I convinced my dad. I was like, Dad, after this wedding in California, we have to drive to Seattle so that I can stop at Crater Lake and I can stop at Spirit Lake. And I kind of angled that as like an opportunity to kind of market my book. I now wish that I had done that almost more intensely, like purposely gone to try to find some of my favorite spooky lakes around the world. But a lot of them are really hard to get to, like really difficult and complicated, such as like one of my favorite ones is Lake Karachay, which is in Russia. And like it's this radioactive lake that got filled in with concrete blocks because it was so radioactive. Obviously I can't visit that. It's impossible. Lake Natron in Tanzania is amazing. It's like this incredible salty natron lake that like mummifies creatures that fall into it. But me and my dad had like some type of conference in Rwanda, and Rwanda, you could figure out how to get to Lake Natron from Rwanda, but you'd have to rent a car and like be out in the middle of like nowhere. And I'm like, unfortunately, I'm not a dark tourist person. I'm a little bit of a chicken. I stand out in a crowd. I can't be trusted. I'm like, it's just rough. So, and then like Lake Vostok is 2 miles beneath the ice in the middle of Antarctica. So like a lot of these lakes are not easily visitable. So I felt like it was great to go out to Oregon and Washington to visit. Spirit Lake is right next to Mount St. Helens. And so now Mount St. Helens is a state park. Like it's now kind of preserved and untouched since that eruption. And what was crazy to me is Crater Lake is a highly visited national park. Everybody, it's sunny, it's beautiful, it's bright blue. I was so excited because I went there just to find the old man of the lake. Do you guys know who the old man is?
No.
Do you know who the old man is, Carly?
I do not.
Okay, wait, I got him. We got a picture of him in here.
I need to do more research, clearly.
That's okay. He's right here. This is the old man of the lake. It's this hemlock trunk in Crater Lake that floats around in the lake. You can kind of see the map here, right? And it's he's a very famous resident of the lake because he's like 400 years old. They have photographs of him from the early 19th century, where he was floating around Crater Lake back then too. He's a deadhead log that has just perpetuated in this lake. And there's rumors, like there's these old legends where scientists tried to like tie him up to the dock so that they could do testing without him like getting in the way. And like immediately there was this giant storm, and it only like ended when they released the old man back into the lake. So when you do, there's only one way to do a boat tour onto Lake Crater Lake, and it's through the National Park Service. And if you're lucky, then you get to go see the old man. And so I told the guy, I was like, I'm only here to see the old man.
You better.
And he was like that. And then the little driver like helped us kind of find him. But that was a very wholesome, like beautiful. It's not spooky when you're there in person. Right. I mean, old man is a little spooky, but versus Spirit Lake, which is right below Mount St. Helens, absolutely terrifying. Like a terrifying trip. I don't actually know if I can recommend it to people because almost all of the roads leading up to Mount St. Helens have been taken out by landslides. So while you're driving on the only road that you can take to get to Mount St. Helens, There's all of these chunks of the road that have just been like swept away. So you're kind of, and you as you're coming around the corner, there's these enormous potholes that could take out your car if you don't like go around them. So I'm like driving in a rental vehicle with my dad, and I'm like, we're gonna die. Like we're gonna get stuck, and there's nobody. There's nobody driving up the mountain. There's nobody driving down the mountain. You are completely alone. And when you get there, the park, what I think it's a state park, maybe a national park, I'm not sure. It was completely empty. I did not see another human that entire day.
Wow.
I mean, to be fair, it was a Monday. It was like not it was not like a Saturday or something like
Yeah,
that.
but still.
It was so spooky, and like it was cloudy, so I couldn't even see Mount St. Helens like through the clouds, but it was just so the whole it was also dead quiet. Like there was no bird noises or animal noises, or like it was also not windy at all that day, so it was just like stagnant, so that was kind of adding to this whole atmosphere. And then you hike down to you guys know Spirit Lake. Like the reason it was in my book, the reason it's like a spooky lake is that it's completely full of these gigantic trees, because when Mount St. Helens exploded, it was a lateral blast, and it created a tsunami on Lake Spirit Lake that went and grabbed all of the trees from all the surrounding mountains and just sucked them down into the lake. And like the whole lake is just covered in these dead trees. And so you can hike down to them, only one spot. You can't hike around the lake. You don't get any, like you can go down in this one spot, and the trees are like taller than I'm 6'2". They're like 7-8 feet thick. Like they're like old growth forest trees that have been kind of like bleached in the sun. And there's thousands of them on the lake's surface. And so potentially like 1 million, like it's kind of crazy. And they move around in the season. So if the wind will blow this giant mat of logs across the lake, so the mat like moves. So you can see it really well from when you're at the top of the mountain, the path going down, which was the terrifying path because it's not cared for at all. So I was like, I'm like scared of ticks. And I'm actually not really a very good natured girly. I'm like scared of bugs. I got like stung by a bee on the way down, and I'm like screaming, running down this hill. It was, so you could see the trees, but then once you're on the shore, the trees are so giant on the shore there, like they're all trapped along the shore, that it was very spooky. So if you want like a real spooky experience, that one's worth it.
I love a good
also watch out, because you could die just getting there.
I do love a good spooky experience though.
Yeah. So I think usually when this kind of thing happens, they like take the logs out and like mill them and stuff, but they've kept them in Spirit Lake because they've been used for a scientific study. So like studying the effects of a log mat on a lake.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You said before that you're not really a dark traveler, but are there any other sort of haunted features like abandoned places or something like that interests you, or is it specifically just hydrology?
I think that if I were, there are places that like part of my mind would want to go to, but I don't think in reality I would ever go. Like I'm not a very good dark tourist. The one that comes immediately to mind is I would be interested in going to the Semipalatinsk test site, which is the one in Kazakhstan where they tested all the nuclear bombs during World War II. That's where Russia, the USSR, was established, and that's where they did all of their bomb testing, just like we did here for Project Plowshare in the United States, where we tested kind of bombs in the American Southwest. So it's in now modern day Kazakhstan, but it was USSR back in the day. You can go and visit Lake Shagan. Don't quote me on the pronunciation of that, but which is the lake that was created from the Shagan bomb that they tested, which was the largest bomb that they set underground in that area. And so now it's a lake, and it's radioactive, but it's not radioactive enough that like it's dangerous to just visit it for a day, kind of like Chernobyl. Like I feel like there's also kind of that little fascination with visiting Pripyat, like kind of, yeah. I'm kind of interested in it, but I don't know if I would actually do it.
Same. Like, would I go? Probably not. But like, if you ask me if I want to, I do. But will I?
Yeah. So I think that's kind of, and I do have a fascination with that part of history. And I love like the Chernobyl, I added the Pripyat River to my more recent book on spooky rivers. And so I'm kind of fascinated. There's like the dock. Have you guys seen the docks at Pripyat in Chernobyl? There's like these crazy giant like Soviet era dock cranes that are kind of, I was fascinated. So yeah, in theory, I'd like to go.
Same.
But I wouldn't be very good at seeing all the dogs. I would struggle with that. I wouldn't want to see, like, I struggled with that in India, like seeing all the dogs just running around everywhere, and like that stresses me out. I wouldn't be good at it. I'd want to bring them all home.
Yeah, I told my partner today we can't ever go on holiday anywhere where there's stray pets.
Yeah, it's
Because
awful.
we're either moving there or they're coming with us, one of those.
No, yeah. Because I went to in Chennai in India, there's so many dogs. There's so many dogs. And it was like hard to, and there's dogs that like you want to help, and it's like you just are not in a position to help them when you're just a traveler. So anyway, so yeah, maybe. I feel like the Semipalatinsk test site would be a good one, because that one's a little lesser. That doesn't have the infamy of the Chernobyl site. And so it's not quite as, I feel like Chernobyl's kind of become exploited as far as dark tourism goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Semipalatinsk less so, but it's also like it's a huge area. You'd have to like literally be prepared to like walk like across this giant area just to kind of see nothing in comparison to Chernobyl, where you're like, at least you're getting kind of that, post-apocalyptic kind of look.
Like fallout.
Yeah, you don't get that as much with Semipalatinsk. So,
all right. Is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up? We'll have you, if you wouldn't mind, share where people can find you on social media, your website, and we'll put all of it in the episode description so that people can find everything really easily.
And the name of your books again.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we did a good job on it. I like talked about the things that I like talking about. I talk a lot. That's the other reason I have a script normally, is it like contains me.
It's fine.
So yeah, no, I feel like we did good. We talked about Baikal. That's, anytime I leave an interview and I'm like, we didn't talk about like Baikal, then I didn't do my job. So yeah, no, I feel good about it.
Perfect. So yeah, where can we find you on social media, on the internet, and what are the titles of your books?
Yeah, so I am Geodosaurus on all social media. So on Instagram, TikTok, kind of YouTube, but I've done a terrible job of like integrating onto YouTube. But I put a compilation video on YouTube every year that like a weird audience really gets excited for. And even Hank Green, like back when TikTok was going to get deleted, he was kind of giving out feedback, and he was like, Geo, like you can't just post all of your videos in a compilation on YouTube. That's such a bad tactic. And I was like, thanks, Hank. Sorry. That's how I'm going to approach it. And I wrote a book last year, Spooky Lakes, that came out in the fall. And I've been so grateful for the appreciation of it, because I did not know what I was doing. And I was like so clueless about how to make a book. Now I get to do the sequel, which is Spooky Rivers, and I'm working on that now. It doesn't come out until next fall though. But we do have a coloring book coming out this year that's like based off of Spooky Lakes. I don't have a copy yet, but it's like, some of it is from the Spooky Lakes book. Like some of the images are from the Spooky Lakes book. And then some of the images are new that I like drew just for the coloring book. So I'm super excited, but that's kind of our celebration this fall, is to have a coloring book and like, have that kind of, as long as TikTok's around, fingers crossed, because I'm kind of skeptical as whether.
You never know. You never know these days.
I'm at this point, I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, so thank you so much for having me on. This was great.
Thank you for being here. We're so excited. We love, every year in October, we go all out with like, we're like, we gotta get like, because October is my favorite month of the whole year. So
yeah, me too.
We always go all out for our October recordings.
Yeah, no, October's my favorite month. I do end up a little bit more of a hermit now in my Octobers, but I still have a lot of fun with it. So
it's the best time of the year. That's all for this episode. If you'd like more Away She Goes in your life, make sure to stop by girlswhotravel.org/podcast. That's where you can fill out a form if you're interested in being a guest on the show. You can also write to us at awayshegosgwt@gmail.com, or leave us a message on our Google voicemail from any phone or computer at 1-563-503-6323. To follow our adventures, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Carly Sees the World. Carly is spelled Carli.
You can also follow me at Sophia AEZ, Sophia with a PH. Away She Goes is part of Girls Who Travel, a community dedicated to radically redefining travel to be inclusive, sustainable, and empowering. You can learn more about GWT, find travel tips and support, shop travel-themed items made by GWT members, and join our Facebook group with nearly 100,000 women all around the world at girlswhotravel.org. We can't wait to connect and explore with you.
Away she goes.